open your mind to the way, the conscious way, the way of conscious mindfulness. Hi, welcome to Sit Down with Sifu on a Saturday. Yes, this is the Saturday show of the Way of Conscious Mindfulness podcast, and my name is Sifu Boggie. Sifu means guide, means somebody points you along the way, who guides you on your path. Boggie means the balancer between the chaos and the calmness, and is my martial art name, my healing name, and my spiritual name. And welcome to the very first episode of Sit Down with Sifu on a Saturday, the Saturday edition. So, where do I begin? Well, actually, that's the title. Where do I begin? So, my name, as I say, my real name is actually Paul Bryson. And when I started this journey, this Daoist journey, the Dao means the way, the path, the balance. And the Dao is a very interesting thing. Funny enough, and we may talk about this sometime in the future, but the Dao is very much like Star Wars. In fact, Star Wars is actually based on Taoism and Eastern philosophy. The whole idea of the Force is actually Qi itself. And, like I say, that's probably a story for another time. But I started off, as a kid, I sort of grew up in London. I'm actually adopted. And, I grew up and I sort of was, at the age, at a very young age, like nine, my mum and dad separated and got split up. And I was always a very loving child and had loads of energy and sort of saw things in always seen things in a different viewpoint, a different way. And I was actually picked on and bullied at school, as well as having, my parents splitting up. And, I struggled with this, I must admit. And I actually, again, it's something I'll delve a little bit deeper in the future, but I actually tried a couple of times to commit suicide because I just couldn't understand the world and couldn't understand what was going on, and I was getting bullied as well. And what happened was, around about 11 years old, I started doing a martial art called Katida. And Katida is what we call hard martial arts. So it's very physical martial arts, very about fighting. But in Katida, they did meditation. And that meditation was the thing I loved the most. I didn't really, I sort of did the fighting because it was part of the system, but I was more into the meditation, more into that spiritual side, the healing side. Now, as part of that, there was actually belt testing. You would get tested for belts every few months or so, and near the latter end. So my birthday is in April, so very close, really, actually, to my 12th birthday in 1982. But I was still like 11 years old at the time. There was a belt testing, and there was to test the belts, there was a judicator, and this judicator I would eventually know as Shun, Melee Shun, but I knew him as Shun. Sifu Shun, and he would actually, go into the Chinese martial arts and the Eastern martial arts, and he would be a belt tester. He would, adjudicate these different arts because he was almost sort of a little bit like in Star Wars. We sort of mentioned Star Wars, a little bit like Obi-Wan. And, he's sort of a little bit of he was looking for certain people, he was looking for a certain style of people, of person. And he did the belt testing, and in that, you have to do a meditation for a certain period, for a few minutes and whatnot. You do the level, the punches and the kicks. But he was more interested in my energy, my chi, and the way I meditated. And he sort of came to me And he sort of, which I might say in the future, but he sort of said a few things, and he was very interested, and he sort of spoke to my parents and said, I would really like to teach your child. I think he's got potential. I'd like to actually take him, under my wing. I actually have somebody who can teach him. But I'd like to take him under the school, the Shun Dao school. Now, Shun was his surname, so like I said, his actual name was Malay, but he was the head of the family, so he was known as the surname. He would be known as the surname, so he was Shun. And he actually had a brother called Po, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. His brother was more in the healing side. He was more the strategy and martial side to a degree. But they both sort of did, because the Dao, you do lots of different things, which again we'll talk about in the future. So he very much sort of said, I'm actually very interested, would like to teach him. But there was became my martial brother Terry, who he wanted to actually train me up. And but Shun said, yes, I'd like, would you allow us to teach your son? And my parents agreed, and I still did Katita for a while, but I started to get into the Shun Dao. So Shun was their surname, but it also means something. Shun means to flow or fold. So you'll actually hear, like in the future, hear Shun quite a lot, because it means the flowing. Shun Dao actually means the flowing way or the folding way. So even though it's their surname, it's like my real name is Paul Brighton, and Brighton is actually, not only is it a surname, but it's the name of a beach. And so the whole idea is that it has more than one meaning. Like a lot of names, Paul. The name Paul, it actually is from Latin and means small virtue. So again, you look into names, and it's a very Daoist thing as well. Is look into stuff, and you'll see that lots of stuff means other things. Everything's a metaphor in my philosophy, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in the future. So yes, so I started round about, like I said, really at the end of my 11th birthday, coming into 12, I started doing the Shun Dao system. And the Shun Dao was very much the Daoist art, so the way, the path, the balance. And Qigong, which means energizing exercise or breath work, was very much a foundation. And all very much, you definitely see it as, that's the main thing. But actually, it was just one of many different skills. So in both Taoism and Qigong, they say, there is, you want to train physically, you want to get stronger physically. There's a Dao for that. There's a Qigong for that. You want to improve your business skills and awareness. There's a Dao for that, and a Qigong, and so on and so forth. So there was the Dao, the way, the path, the balance. There were many different skills in the Daoist umbrella that these different skills were all about balance. They were all about doing things in different ways, and Qigong was one of them. Qigong, the energy exercise, it's a very interesting thing, and we'll talk about this in the future. But yeah, Qigong is very subtle, and it can just look like something like moving meditation or moving exercise, but it actually is working to your core, and it's working on you at such a deep level. And that's the Dao. The Daoist arts are very subtle and very powerful at the same time. They can seem like one thing when they can be something else. So with Sifu Shun and Sifu Po, I very much learnt the different Daoist arts. So all the techniques under there would be the martial arts or fitness, the healing arts, so like massage, massage and beyond, philosophy, philosophy and psychology, because my teachers very much believed everything you learn enhances everything else you do. So they very much encouraged me to learn not just the Shun Dao system, but they encouraged me to learn other things. But they actually encouraged me to learn philosophy, learn theology, many different things, because eventually this was a role going in a certain direction, but we'll get there in a minute. So there is a philosophy. There's also there is music and art or artistry in the arts. So I was not necessarily. I play a little bit of harmonica. I'm not very much into music as such, but artwork. You know, I actually did figure skating and ice skating as part of my journey. And food and nutrition. Food and nutrition, that in the Daoist viewpoint, all food is medicine. Not just herbs, but all food actually is medicine. That when you eat it the right way, it can heal you, it can empower you, and it can enhance you. So there's very much this thing, what's called the 3 M's. And all these Daoist arts are covered by these 3 M's. So you have medical, martial, and meditational. So Qigong, there's a medical side to Qigong, so self-healing of self and others. There is a martial/fitness side to Qigong, but there's also a spiritual/meditational side to Qigong, and it's the same with all of them. Like even like massage, massage, so Tui Na, acupressure, reflexology, which are all Eastern techniques, Eastern arts. They're not just healing arts. They can actually activate spiritual awakening. I've done massages on people where they've had past life regression. They've done remote viewing. They've had spiritual encounters while I'm healing them or massaging them, while I'm firing energy into them. So, you know, the Taoist viewpoint is that everything is more than one thing. You know, the strategy, you know, the strategy, Sun Tzu, or some people see it as Sun Tzu's, SUNTZE. A lot of people say Sun Tzu's, but it's actually Sun Tzu. So Sun Tzu and the art of strategy, or at least one of its names, the art of war is sort of what it's known for. But that was actually has been used in business for hundreds of years, and especially in modern times. My teachers actually taught them the art of strategy, the art of war, and used it in business. Because it's not about taking people on and fighting them. It's actually about working things out. And if you can, actually not even getting into confrontation to begin with. Because Sun Tzu's viewpoint is that if you actually have to fight, you've already lost. Because so everybody loses in fighting, in war. So the idea is to not to get to that point to begin with. So it's very much about strategy, very much about negotiations, which is a big thing for business. Then there is like I said, there is the food side as well, and then there's a big energy side. But energy can be for healing. Energy can obviously be for spiritual side. Energy can be for physical fitness or /fighting side, and the same with the food. The same with all of it. So it's all interconnected. All these skills are interconnected. So what's happened over now? 39 years at the moment. 39 years, coming up to 40 years by the end of the year. And I've learned many different things. I've learned very much Daoist techniques and skills, but I've learned other stuff as well. I've actually gone into the Japanese, gone into their Reiki, but the Reiki that's actually in the East, not so much the Reiki that was taught in the West, but the Eastern Reiki does have quite a few differences. And we will talk about that in the show in the future, on the Saturday, the Sit Down with Sifu. On a Saturday show, we'll talk about the differences in Reiki, the different styles, and even one of my big passions, Qigong. Qigong in the West is different to Qigong in the East. I always joke about this. I always say that Qigong is like an app. You know, you've got a bad back, I've got an app for that. I've got Qigong for that. You know, you've got a headache, I've got Qigong for that. You want to improve the backhand in tennis, I've got Qigong for that. So they're very much like apps. But in China, in Japan and China, so Japan, Qigong is actually called Hatsui Ho, which means energy enhancer. So it's a slightly different terminology, slightly different word, but it's the same thing of sorts. But don't say that. Don't say that to certain people, because certain Zen people, Daoist people, will have an argument with you over it. But so in Japan, Hatsui Ho is the term, and in China the term is Qigong. Now, and so part of that Qigong, so you have Qigong is like an app, but there's also updates, spiritual updates for that app now in China. One of the name I was taught to use is Shun Qi Shen. And Shun Qi Shen means flowing energy spirit. And it's basically like a download, a spiritual download for your Qigong. Now, in the Reiki and the Shun Qi Shen itself, so the Shun Qi Shen as a form of Reiki, energy enhancer, again, now in the West, we see Reiki as, oh, yes, it's all about healing. Well, actually, in the East, it's those 3 M's again. There's a medical side, the healing side. There is a spiritual side, an awakening side, and there's a martial side. Or it can help you, in your martial arts, your fitness. It can help you with your focus. So in the sports, so modern day warriors are sports people. I actually did for about 15 years. I called it Tai Chi sports. Now, Tai Chi is a term. It's a certain term. So if you think of Qigong as like the umbrella for energy exercise, or think of Qigong like music, then Tai Chi will be a style of music. So because some people say, oh, what's the difference between Tai Chi and Qigong? Which one's better? Well, Tai Chi is a Qigong. That Tai Chi is an energizing exercise. It's a whole string of them put together. But I use that name because it was far more popular. Most people have heard of Tai Chi, hadn't heard of its bigger brother or its grandfather, hadn't heard of Qigong. So Tai Chi sports was all about using the martial art and spiritual art and healing art techniques in the modern day warrior, which is the sports person. So I started off figure skating. I started ice skating at the age of 15 at Richmond, ice rink that's long gone now, but in London, in the UK, called Richmond. And I fancied a figure skater at the time. I was 15 years old. I'm allowed to fancy young ladies, and at the time, so I fancied. There was a female who I fancied, and she was a figure skater, and I thought, I'll learn to figure skate. So I started to do figure skating, and then figure skating. From figure skating, I did ice dance, and then I started doing ice hockey as well, and a little bit of speed skating, and from my Daoist viewpoint, everything you learn enhances everything else you do. And ice skating was a very interesting thing for me, because when you're moving on the ice and twisting and turning, a lot of ice skaters will tell you that ice skating is the closest you can get to flying. For me, ice skating is the closest you can get to flowing with chi, flowing with energy. And ice skating, very much, if you're nervous and scared of the ice will mirror that, and it'll be really difficult to skate. And if you fall over, it will really hurt. But if you relax and let go, and we'll talk about that in the future, with the drunken Daoist techniques come into play. And because it's not actually about alcohol, it's about using the techniques of when you're drunk, you're relaxed, and you can move and you counter move, and if you fall over because you're acting drunk or you're relaxing totally, it doesn't hurt. So these different techniques, just like there's in kung fu. So you've got drunken kung fu, you've got dragon, you've got tiger, you've got horse. There are many different styles. There's even a duck style. Yeah, there's duck Qigong and duck Kung Fu, but that's for another time. But yes, so the whole idea is this adapting abilities that I learned to ice skate, I learned to play hockey, I learned to figure skate, and I actually used the Qigong principles and the Daoist principles in those sports. So I had friends who actually did 10-pin bowling, and I taught them Qigongs to help them in their 10-pin bowling. And the same with tennis players. I had a friend who was a professional tennis player, and for a while in his academy, we did Tai Chi tennis, and we actually did Tai Chi Tai Chi and Qigong techniques for his tennis to improve his tennis players. And he even had some tennis players who were wheelchair bound. And again, we taught Qigong. I taught Qigong for them as well. So the whole idea of what I do and what I've always done is everything adapts and twists and turns and different Tai Chi, the Qigong, the massage, the philosophy, everything adapts to everything else. And so I've had a very interesting sort of life, a very interesting twisty turny life. I very much when I was younger, I very much loved I very much loved the Qigong. But before that, when I was a bit younger, around about 8, 9, I actually started acting. So when I got up to 16, I actually wanted to be an actor at first. And my cunning plan was to become a baker. By becoming a baker, I could work in the bakery in the daytime, and then in the afternoons do the go and do acting and do auditions. Now actually the irony was sort of acting sort of eased off. There is a few tales of acting. So I've been in 1 or 2 B movies and 1 or 2 pilots for certain things. Nothing ever really exploded into fame, which is good thing Daoistically, because you sort of want to avoid the fame because of the ego. But we'll talk about that another time. So I did baking, and ironically enough, Sifu Boggie, Shun's brother, he was very much the healer. He did the healing, he did the tweener, the Chinese massage, and he was sort of a bit of a big chap. He was sort of jolly chap. He sort of, if you've seen like the Chinese Buddhas, he sort of looked a little bit like the Chinese Buddha or Kung Fu Panda. He sort of was a little bit looking like Kung Fu Panda, quite jolly chap, quite big chap. Where Shun was far more slim, very long white beard, and a little bit more sterner, a little bit more to the point, where Poe was a little bit more friendly, a little bit more funny, and a little bit more silly, a little bit more like me maybe. But when I said, I'm going to become a baker, Poe said, oh, excellent. Bakers make good masseuse, good at massage because of kneading the dough. So, I learned that everything you do literally you can take techniques from that skill that you're learning and use it in other things. So like, because when I left school, I didn't go to college. I left, and you had school, and then there was college and university. I left school, but I actually did a thing called Open University, which is which now would be actually online, but back then it was written papers, and you had to visit your lecturer a couple of times a year. and I actually did a psychology and philosophy that way. I actually learned that way, but I was always reading books and always studying and always learning new stuff. And there were certain things my Sifus encouraged. They encouraged me to do theology, because eventually I would actually end up, for them, I would actually end up doing close protection, so like bodyguard, because they were martial artists, but they actually worked with diplomats, and so they actually did close protection. They actually worked with military and teaching certain military techniques to different armies across the world, or private organizations, and they were very much in that network. The Shun was very much on the strategy side and the business side, and slightly on the military side as well. So he would like teach people different, did like soldiers or private security. He would teach them different techniques, and eventually that was one of the roles I did. I taught certain martial art moves, certain holds and locks were my speciality. But also then he supplied close protection. He supplied bodyguards, and I was one of those. And Poe was more of the healer. Poe was more of the healing person. He also used what's called 5-element cooking from 5-element theory and Daoist theory, and I studied that as well. And both of them made me learn all their arts. I learned a little bit of all of their arts, and they would very much say that my role in the future was to be a Sifu for Sifus, a healer for healers, a teacher for teachers, because my idea was that I actually learned advanced learning techniques. So I learned how to learn. I learned how I learn, and then I learned different ways so I can adapt my abilities to the person I teach. Now, I do love classes. I do love teaching classes. I do love teaching lots of different people, because you have to adapt that class to the people. And I've actually worked for different agencies in the past and done holistic events, and very much like taught to 200 people was one of the most I've done. But then I also love teaching the individual, because when you teach the individual, you can, or for me, I adapt it to that individual. So I totally adapt the class. I listen to how they talk and their ways of communicating, their ways of learning, because some people are more visual, some people are more auditory, some people are more kinesthetic. They need to do and feel, and so when you learn how people learn, you can then help them learn. You can help them adapt. And the whole idea of the different techniques I have is that, one of the roles I learned, and my teachers have taught many people. It wasn't just me. Their family goes back over 20 generations, the Shundao family, and they taught Barefoot Doctors, DragonDog Shaman, Cloud Whisperers, and other different Daoist skills as well. And again, we'll do podcasts on these. There's a lot here, so we'll talk about these individually in the future. But as a Barefoot Doctor, all of them to a degree, but especially with a Barefoot Doctor, one of your biggest goals is to teach people to help themselves, is to help heal themselves. So with the Qigong, I don't just teach Qigong. I actually teach you acupressure techniques. I teach you sacred sounds. I teach you a little bit of the philosophy. I teach you the meditational techniques of breathing. I teach you the Qigong or Daoist yoga, the stretching techniques as well. So there's always lots there. I don't just teach one thing. I teach what needs to be taught. I teach everything as one, because that's how I teach. And so I'm not the normal Qigong practitioner. I'm not the normal Tai Chi practitioner. I'm not the normal reflexology practitioner. I'm a little bit different. I very much learn all these different techniques. So yes, over the years, for Shin and Po, I've done close protection. I actually did a little bit of training people certain martial art moves or techniques. I've actually did martial art competitions back in the day, back in the 90s, and very much Chinese style, which is sort of like if you ever see a sumo wrestler ring. If you the ring and you're fighting that opponent, and you either knock them out or knock them out of the ring, and that's pretty much it. They are the major rules. Where I have students and fellow friends or fellow Sifus that teach for my school. To teach in the school now, the mighty Sifu Boggie, and he was very much a competition that he did kickboxing or not, and he very much did the competitions where there was rules, and he was a world champion. And he always says, so, if I fight Boggie with rules, I know I can win. If I fight Boggie with no rules, I'm in trouble. Because I sort of adapt, and I learn to do things in different ways, and I love China, which is grappling techniques and holds, but I can get very, very wiry and spin around in different circles in different ways because I know different techniques. So yes, so my adventure in this life so far, it's been very interesting to say the least. I've been a baker, I've been a close protection officer, massage. I'm very, very well known for my healing, for my massage. As I've sort of said earlier, people have had massages from me and experienced past lives, and they've gone off to other dimensions or remote views, and so because of the way I do stuff, it's in a slightly different way to say the normal massage, and I use different techniques. So yes, I've done many adventures. I'm really just skimming over the surface of what I've done, but over the coming weeks and months, we will talk about the different things. We will talk about the different points of the Dao and what they mean. So I hope this is intrigues you. I hope you sort of like the sound. If you've got any questions, I'm on Instagram, so under Sifu Boggie. I'm on YouTube. Actually, Instagram, Sifu.Boggie. You'll find me on Instagram. On YouTube, you'll find me as Sifu Boggie. I actually have a link tree, which is sort of like a virtual business card. So it is link.tree/Sifu Boggie. But all this information you'll actually find in the info below. And ask me a question if there's something you are interested in learning about. Why not ask me? I do have a Qigong pretty much for everything. That is one of my trademarks. So I've got Qigong for that, and I'm notoriously known for. Over the years, I've very much seemed to specialise in people with chronic pain, with fibromyalgia, ME, MS. And, they may have had it for 10, 20, 30 years. And I've taught them Qigong. I taught them different exercises and different reflexology and acupressure points. And most of them have had quite impact, have had quite a lot of change. I don't like the word cure, but they definitely, a lot of them would say that they don't have pain at all, or they definitely don't have the pain they used to. And same with anxiety and stress. But my teachers, that wasn't just the healing side. My teachers actually taught empaths, psychics, remote viewers, because they're actually used. And we sort of touch on this on the Monday shows, the Way of Conscious Mindfulness, and with Brittany and Boggs, One Step Beyond. The businesses, the FT, the Fortune 500 and 100 index businesses have been using Qigong, have been using massage, have been using remote viewers, psychics, empaths for over 50 years. And my teachers taught these psychics, these empaths, these remote viewers, how to ensure they never burn out. So that is also one of my tricks up my sleeve, if I was wearing sleeves right now. It's one of the things I can do is the Qigong, the techniques I teach, not just for helping people with chronic pain or helping people with migraine, stress, IBS and things like this, but it's also helping you enhance your psychic abilities, helping you enhance your energy, so if that interests you, like I say, you can find me on Linktree/Sifu Boggie. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook under The Way of Conscious Mindfulness. That's the main page you can find me on. I'm even on LinkedIn, and you can have a look on there for Paul Sifu Boggie Brighton, and you'll find me on there. But that's it really for this show, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again next week. So for now, take care, be well, enjoy what's rest of your Saturday or whichever day that you're listening to this show, and until next time, it is love, chi and shen from me, Sifu Boggie. Bye for now.